My first executive decision here this morning is to give permission to everyone to take off your coats. Be comfortable. Everyone in the back, come on, fill in. I am really humbled and overwhelmed by that beautiful introduction, Jay and Bina. From the heart and from your hearts. And I'm going to speak more about you a little bit later, Jay specifically, but to the two of you, thank you for all you have done to elevate the cause of young people in our community and for being my friend. I want to begin with some thank yous. The city council is the governing body, but this is a team effort at our city, as you know, and I want to welcome and thank the city manager, Howard Chan, for his partnership and friendship throughout all of these challenging years and all of your devotion to public service and your team. Can't name everyone, but I want to thank you all, the city team, the charter officers specifically who are sitting in front of me here. I know I'm going to leave folks out. So the clerk, the attorney, the treasurer, today, especially the treasurer, by the way, we'll get to that in a moment. But to all of you for being my partner and our partners. Thank you, Mitchell, for being the MC today. You're doing a great job. Thank you to the drum line. Thank you to Mark Friedman and Jonathan Porteous. Jonathan, congratulations on your beautiful award. It's well deserved. Thank you to my team who, you know, in these speeches, I never think of my team in my office who are just incredible and helped me through this process of developing a State of the City address. Someday we'll write a book on what it takes to write a good speech. Thank you to Dan and Amber, and thank you to Ed Emerson who helped put all this together today. Give him a big round of applause here, okay? Today's speech, I will give you a little preview, is for and about youth. So I want to begin with my city council colleagues because I am the mayor. I get a lot of the attention, but most of the inspiration for what I'm about to tell you today comes from my colleagues. So this isn't comprehensive, but it's a little bit of a taste. To Angelique Ashby, thank you for organizing in your district the most robust youth volunteerism effort in the entire city. Thank you. Sean Laloe, for many things, including creating space on Del Paso Boulevard for young people to learn the business of music and video. To Jeff Harris, for always fighting for what you believe in, and specifically for helping to consistently build up Stanford Settlement and Northgate Boulevard. To Katie Valenzuela, for always leading the charge to organize young people around the importance of activism and politics. To Jay Chenier, I'm going to get to you later. To Eric Guetta, who could not be here today, he's not feeling well, for championing La Familia, the La Familia Empowerment Center, and for making Tahoe Park, my old neighborhood, the center of community activities around kids. I was there Saturday, it was just beautiful. To Rick Jennings, for what you do in all parts of your life, and for being the original voice to say that the city must be directly involved in preventing violence. Rick Jennings, thank you. And to Mai Vang, I'm going to get to you later too. So let me begin with those introductions. I want to welcome my wife, Julie, here as well. Thank you. The most important vote in the city, at least when it comes to my elections. So I want to start with this. I have so many memories from my 62 years on this planet. So how is it that there are moments of my childhood that I can still see so clearly today? I close my eyes and I can picture the time when I was 13 years old and drove down the left side of the lane to score the winning basket for Taylor Junior High School against Burlingame Intermediate. I remember it. Or the time when I was 8 years old and caught a long fly ball over my head to rob my friend Jimmy of a home run. Or my first teenage job as a rec leader. Or 10 similar childhood memories, most related to sports, but certainly not all of them. And 50 years later, my old buddies still get together. We get together once or twice a year, and they have the same vivid memories. I grew up very middle class in the Bay Area. I graduated high school in 1977, the year before Proposition 13 passed, and funding for schools and kids changed forever. We were not rich, but my childhood sure was. I was always busy with some sport or organized activity. I never had time to get in trouble, even if I wanted to. And so what has changed? For so much has changed over these many decades. I don't idealize the past. None of us should, because there were challenges and issues back then too. But the world has changed. Some things have changed for the better, and many other things, not so much. The pressures on young people are immense. They are attempting to navigate a much harsher and much more impersonal world. Excuse my language, but there is too damn much social media. Their challenges are different today. My generation, my stories about ball games and rec centers, and my generation never had to worry about school shootings or pandemics or anxiety and depression or even the basics of life. For young people, let's be honest, they ask today, will we ever be able to buy a home, much less rent one? There are other differences as well. Income inequality is much greater than it was in prior generations. In fact, it has soared. And while families with means can afford for their kids to do just about any enrichment or extracurricular activity, the truth of the matter is the price of participation in sports and other extracurricular activities has risen to hundreds, and in many cases, thousands of dollars. And so now arts, theater, music, other enrichment programs are no longer just a given in our public schools. And government budgets everywhere, including cities, have been pinched, making it much harder for youth investments, vital as they are, to compete for funding. What have the decades told us? The research, the experience tells us what kids need to thrive. We know that having an adult mentor, a teacher, a coach, a counselor, or someone else, plus programs and activities they are passionate about, is the key to a good childhood and preparation for adult life. It's where children learn the life lessons. It's where I learned my life lessons. Hard work, teamwork, empathy, winning with humility, losing with grace. I sure have learned that throughout my life. These formative experiences matter, and it's where the great memories are made too. Many children today get those opportunities and those memories, but not every child does. Kids who would benefit the most from these opportunities too often in our community and in our country have the least opportunity to take advantage of them. So I'm going to talk about the state of the city in 2022, but I want to take a slightly different approach to that sometimes forgettable routine of just doing the laundry list of what is and what isn't. Instead of focusing primarily on 2022, I want to pose a different question. What will be the state of the city in 2032 and 2042? And what do we want it to be? I love the story, I don't know if you have heard it, about the old wise man and the little bird. The old man was a great sage who could predict everything accurately, from when it would rain and it was time to plant the crops, to when there would be frost to begin the harvest. Well, there was a little boy, and he doubted the sage's abilities, and he decided he was going to try to trick him. So the boy found a bird, grabbed hold of the bird, and put the bird behind his back and approached the wise man. And he said to the wise man, "Sir, is this bird dead or alive?" If the sage said dead, the boy would release the bird. If the sage said alive, well, that poor bird. The sage considered the boy's question for a moment and simply said, "Young man, the answer is in your hands. What will be the state of the city in 2032 and 2042? The answer is truly in our hands." And here we stand at the beautiful YMCA, a striking example of what can happen if you decide to take the future into your own hands. And so a huge shout out and thank you to Sharna Braux, your entire team, not only for making this beautiful space available to us today. The sun aside, I could not think of a better place to hold the state of the city. And so here's a little history of the Y, and it's really important. The Y's been operating since 1866 in Sacramento, when the city's early residents founded a refuge for those who were really struggling to get by. Today, the Y serves 30,000 people a year, 40% of them low to median income. And it's no longer just swim lessons and sports. They provide childcare, mental health services, social services for young people and for seniors. This year alone, they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sure that everyone could participate regardless of means. But they are also thinking forward. Together with Councilmember Valenzuela, they are taking a bold step that will put this Y in a position to have an even greater impact for good in the decades ahead. They're looking for a developer. Anybody in the audience here? To build a new Y on this site with a child care center and 8 stories of affordable housing for families experiencing homelessness. Right on. Is that it or what? So how are they going to do it? They own the land and are confident that they can pull it off. And guess what? As your mayor, I have no doubt. For what you are showing is creativity, adaptation, and will. That's what we want in our city, and the city is here to help you. The future really is in our hands. I've learned over my, 25 years of elected service, I started as a teenager, of course, that bills and ordinances, programs and new investments, they take years to show impact. And mistakes, by the way, similarly do not reveal themselves oftentimes immediately. And so when you think about it, the time that any of us spend, not just in elective office, in public or community life, is dominated by doing the very best we can to respond to the urgent problems people face in the moment. Think about what we've been through together. These past years have been extraordinary, both in the unprecedented nature of the stress in our community and our country, but also in the rich and meaningful ways we have chosen to respond. I'm going to talk about the future, but I want to take stock for just a moment for the present before we look ahead, and to talk about some of the ways the city has risen to the occasion. This speech is not about homelessness, but I must say we have not shied away from homelessness. We are not a health and human services agency. And I appreciate Patrick Kennedy, Supervisor Patrick Kennedy, being here today. Thank you for coming, Patrick. Saw you here. But we're not a health and human services agency, and yet we have increased our shelter and safe ground capacity from 100 to 1,100 beds per night. And yes, the problem is worse, but we're going to keep going and we're going to keep trying, but we're not going to do it alone. We've dramatically increased the permitting and construction of the affordable housing that we so badly need in our city. We built 481 units in 2018, and now annually we are producing over 2,000 units a year. It's still not enough, but it's a big stride. We have 644 affordable units under construction now, and we're going to keep going. COVID has battered the economy, and yet we have balanced budgets in the midst of all this. I mean, maybe that's a miracle, Howard and team. We've maintained stable and effective public safety services, other core services, and we have put more federal, state, and city money directly into the community for housing, for small business, for arts and the creative economy, for our neighborhood commercial corridors, and more. We passed a groundbreaking electrification ordinance to address climate, all during a pandemic. And we're embracing the racial reckoning in our society with purpose and commitment. We're not shying away from it. We're embracing one another. We're acknowledging our history, the good and the bad parts, and we're writing the future together. And even with our challenges, the city is gaining more vibrancy by the day. We have more art, more music festivals, and more theater than ever. And we're changing this economy. We've launched major jobs initiatives like Aggie Square, the North State Hospital. Dr. Chung is here, thank you, and the California Mobility Center. And yes, we have major challenges. Crime is up in our city as it is throughout the entire country. We lived through the worst mass shooting in our city's history on a busy Saturday night in a still recovering downtown. People are struggling economically, inflation, high gas prices, and people are struggling emotionally with real concerns about the state of our community and the country, including the democracy itself. And so I'm always inspired by artist Alex Trujillo's signs that are now pretty ubiquitous throughout the entire city. I know I have one up in my office. Every day is your chance to make this city a little better. It was only 3 years ago that Sacramento went 2 straight years without a single youth homicide. We must not give up on reclaiming that proud moment in time. There's been so much commentary, even over the last week, locally, statewide, and nationally, about homelessness, about crime, about safety, about whether people want stronger law enforcement or more investments to help people in need. And you know what I'm going to say next, I think. People want both. They want balance and they want common sense. They want to feel safer in their neighborhoods and they want to help their vulnerable neighbors. They want the police to be in real partnership with the community. And welcome, Chief Kathy Lester. Thank you for being here this morning. I fully support your new proactive policing initiative that uses real data to focus our resources in the 7 square miles of the city where crime and gun violence is the highest. This focused strategy gives us the best chance to get thousands of additional illegal guns off our street, and we must do so together. This is what the city wants. It wants us to continue building a future that models strength, personal responsibility, kindness, and caring for one another. And that is actually the city that we are building together, even if we can't always see its completion in real time. I love what the writer Ralph Waldo Emerson said. He said, "The days do not always reveal what the years can see." So I know that I can't, and we can't always control what comes at us in these days, but I know what we can control. We can act now to change the course and direction of our city for the better, for the years and for the decades to come. I heard a quote recently that just really struck me. It said, "Let hindsight be our foresight." And so, again, I know I'm going a little bit back and forth, but follow me here. It's a good journey and it will end well. Think back for a moment in hindsight. Imagine the outcome of the COVID pandemic if 30 years ago, our country had really invested in public health as a national priority. How different that would be. In our state and in our city, there are historic examples of wish we would have, and on the other side, thank God we did. On the former, I think about 50 years ago, when the state shut the mental hospitals and promised a decent system of community mental health care. How different would homelessness be today if our predecessors had followed through on that promise and made mental health care a right, not just a governmental option? It's not too late, by the way. There are happier examples. 3.5 decades ago, the city council took $40 million in bond proceeds that were initially intended to attract the Raiders to Sacramento. Remember that one, Mark? Raider fan. That money, instead, the Raiders didn't come. I don't even know where they are now. They're in Las Vegas. They're in Las Vegas, I guess. Yeah. So what did we do with the money 3.5 decades ago? We fulfilled the dream of Sam and Bonnie Pinella for an iconic community center in Meadowview. We also used that $40 million to build the new Bell Coolidge Library in Southland Park. We repaired the levees to keep us safe, and we replaced the overcrowded and outdated animal shelter on Front Street. Think about 3.5 decades, how many thousands of kids, families, and animals have benefited as a result of that far-sighted council decision. On some present challenges, we think about the future. It's not like it's all or nothing. We often do take the long view. I think about last month. See Bill Busath here and Hector Barone in the audience. Last month, Sacramento residents approved a council-backed action to invest hundreds of millions of dollars to repair our stormwater system, to prevent flooding, and to improve water quality. It ain't sexy, by the way. And there was little fanfare, but it expressed a very basic commitment. Plan for the future. Invest in the future. Spend now to make sure that the next generation can grow and build without worrying that our most basic physical systems might fall apart. Well, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't always apply the same logic when it comes to things that matter just as much to the future of our city. And so here's what I want to say to you today. If there is one area where our consistent focus, attention, creativity, and resources today will matter the most for 2032 and 2042, it can be distilled with this credo. Intersect every other city priority and agenda with empowering young people. Elevate the youth agenda. See young people for their great strengths, not just their challenges. Have enough humility to know that our generation has made great progress on many things and has fallen way short on others. Understand that if we do right by them, the next generation will do better by us. Building a bolder youth agenda in Sacramento does not require us to start from zero, for we are blessed with a tremendous set of city leaders who dedicate their professional lives to nurturing our young people. Public leaders, YMCA, parks, economic development, police and fire, the libraries. And it's not just city government who helps our kids. We have these tremendous organizations, these nonprofits out there who devote their lives in heroic ways to serving kids, and especially at-risk kids. And you know what? They do it most of the time while struggling to meet payroll and working off of shoestring budgets. And so I'm proud of the fact that over the last 5 years, we've begun changing what I call the investment arc of the city. We passed that second half of Measure U in 2018, and it was a general tax. And we've had a few squabbles and a few fights. It's all right. It's all good, as they say, because the arc is the right arc. We've put an additional $170 million in Measure U and general fund dollars above the 2018 baseline directly into the community, directly, including most every Sacramento neighborhood and more resources for young people than ever before. But here's my central point. For young people, it is still not enough. There are still too many gaps, especially in disadvantaged neighborhoods. We're plain not serving enough kids for enough time in enough ways. I spoke earlier about balance. I believe in that. I believe in balance. When economic and budget times get bad, there is not a lot of balance. Youth programs get cut the deepest as government focuses on preserving essential services, mostly traditional public safety. During the last recession, police and fire suffered a real and painful cut. It was real and it was painful. And we should do everything we can to avoid it, of 8.5%. During that same difficult time during the last recession, the parks budget was cut 40%. The budget for youth, summer camps, sports programs, and employment was slashed by 67%. That's not balance. Youth funding must be seen as essential too. And here's the way that it works, in a good way and a not so good way. Over the past 2 years, we've taken all that federal money, the COVID relief money, both CARES and ARP. We've gotten more than $200 million, and we've poured the majority of it again into the community. We also shored up city services and worked with our employees, all in the right way. But we put most of it into the community and paid for a wide variety of youth programs, youth workforce training, mentorship, free transit ridership, nighttime activities, free internet access, and more. Here's my question to my community. What happens when that one-time money runs out? Without a long-term funding commitment, promising strategies and programs go away. And here's the prime example. Yesterday, 24 hours ago, the City Council proudly approved $16 million of mostly federal and state funding, not all of it, but mostly, to train 1,400 older teens and young adults for career opportunities in renewable energy, in construction, in urban agriculture, in healthcare, in IT, and cybersecurity, and in jobs in the public sector. Building a modern workforce is not a one-time endeavor. If we agree, and I think we do, that workforce is a key investment for our city's future, and we acknowledge that we can't do it all, we need our partners as well. From a city perspective, where will the resources come for the next cohort of 1,400 teens and young adults, and the cohort after that, and for the generation after that? The challenge and the opportunity to answer that question is now in our hands. 2032 and 2042 must start now. I do not propose attaining the balance I described earlier by cutting traditional public safety. It's not the way I think we should go. Instead, I stand strongly behind the idea that our city must commit a guaranteed percentage of revenue to larger and ongoing investments for young people. For nearly a decade, SAC Kids First, who held the big press conference on Monday, because I was not going to go before them. They were going to go before me. And my Vang, of course, been instrumental in this as well. But for nearly a decade, SAC Kids First and Council Member Chenier have been trying to get such a measure across the finish line. In my opinion, Jay has been the most influential and important advocate for youth in the history of our city. Give it up for him. It is long past time in his last year of a great public service career that we pass a permanent funding source for young people. The city charter provides protections and rights for many other important priorities of city government, and I support that. Our young people deserve no less. So when the council votes in July to place the initiative on the November ballot and the voters say yes, it will set aside an additional $10 to $12 million a year for Sacramento's young people without raising taxes. What would this money do? It would move us closer to a citywide policy that says no child will be denied participation in any program or activity based on too few slots or an inability to pay. That's a Sacramento value. Look, there are unending examples where a new permanent source of funding would, not just could, would dramatically expand our reach to more kids. I got a text yesterday asking, how can hundreds of Freedom School kids go to the new Museum of Science and Curiosity? It's $12 to get in. Didn't have a ready answer to that question. I think about Merv Brookins, who's here today, and his organization, Brother to Brother in North Sacramento. They've been a consistent force for reducing violence and for helping young people. Every year, Merv organizes these sports leagues. It's football, it's basketball, 1,000 kids. But guess what? Every single year, he has waiting lists. And his waiting lists are the result not of anything other than insufficient resources. And it's not just on the nonprofit side, the city programs. We run incredible programs. The Sacramento Youth Parks Community Enrichment Department, otherwise known as YMCA. Love that, YMCA. They offer, here's two examples, Primetime Teen. It's a workforce development program for 13 to 17-year-olds, and nearly every year there's a wait list to participate. No more. Summer at City Hall, another thing that Jay and Bina pioneered. It's a model program for teen engagement, project-based learning. It's been replicated by a dozen other cities in California. There are 3 applicants for every slot. 3 applicants for every slot. No, every kid should have the right to participate. And then back to the nonprofit world, Clara Studios. They offer 2 arts programs in the summer, wonderful programs. One costs $295, the other $495. And they provide scholarships. They're a wonderful organization to as many kids as they can. But I ask this question. How many young people don't apply for these diverse offerings because the chances of getting a spot are low, or the sticker shock discourages them from even trying? It's young people. It's the SAC Kids First coalition that have pushed for this new funding source. And young people will be actively involved in helping determine how the money will be spent. And I am confident that this time, this November, third time's a charm, the people of Sacramento will say yes. I haven't even gotten, by the way, to the best part of the speech because it's coming right now. For a permanent source of funding is a start, but it's not enough. If we are truly committed to 2032 and 2042, we must jump on any opportunity to find the connection between young people and every other goal, aspiration, and opportunity we have to grow a modern city. And what a momentous time it is to make these connections. Today, I have the privilege of announcing a connection that I believe will transform South Sacramento and our entire city. Let's go. You ready to hear this? So several months ago, my colleague, Mai Veng, sitting in the front row, new, energetic, great council member, she got a tip. The federal government was selling 102 acres of federal surplus land south of Meadowview Road in South Sacramento. So what did Mai do? She pushed the city manager, she pushed me, and she pushed the entire city council to buy this vacant 102 acres for a mere $12 million. It's actually pretty cheap. She believes, as I do, that the people of South Sacramento deserve the opportunity to dream big and to use that 102 acres to create more economic opportunities and civic amenities for all of our people in all of our neighborhoods. I want to thank Mai for her vision, and I want to acknowledge her guests today. Welcome to Coach Tyrone Moore and Letitia Gilmore of the Solid Ground Sports Academy. There they are. They're going to drive this change I'm going to describe in a minute, all right? So it's always about listening to the community. So Mai and her team held hours of listening sessions with the community, and her ask of the community was simple. What are your dreams? Can you imagine any possibility? We can make it happen. If you could build or create anything on your new land, what would you do? And one signature priority kept rising to the top. The community said, we want, we need, and we deserve a modern regional youth sports facility for the community and for the region. And it should be built in the heart of our neighborhoods. The need for more quality youth facilities in Sacramento should be obvious. We have so many beautiful parks in our city and a great parks department. But again, we have to be honest. In many of our less affluent neighborhoods, our kids are playing on fields that at best are of uneven quality. Only 13% of the city's parks and sports fields have at least one field with lights. There are no lighted soccer fields north of the American River, and just one lighted field in Meadowview. Nearly half of our sports fields, they have no bathroom close by. Even where our parks are in good shape, and there are many, we do not have enough fields and facilities to serve our kids. Here is not an urban legend in Sacramento, not an urban legend. Thousands of Sacramento families whose kids participate in competitive athletics travel every weekend to Manteca, to wonderful places, by the way, Manteca, Lodi, Roseville, Stockton, Santa Clara, San Jose, Southern California, and elsewhere to compete. Why? Because we have no regional sports facilities that make us competitive to host regional, state, or national tournaments for all kinds of sports, for soccer, for baseball, for softball, for field hockey, for lacrosse, basketball, rugby, football, name the sport. This year, under the leadership of Vice Mayor Ashby, we completed a beautiful regional aquatics center in Natomas. It is our only regional sports facility. So now we have an opportunity to build another iconic destination for our kids. And the place to build it is in South Sacramento at our new 102-acre site. Right on. Oh, you haven't heard nothing yet. A large regional sports facility that's designed primarily, but not exclusively for youth. You know, we get to play too. Will be a destination for youth of all ages from South Sacramento, from the city, from the entire region to play, to learn, to compete, and to have fun. We won't just be building fields. We'll be building up kids as well. By attracting, it's not just for our kids though. Get to that in a minute. Here is the real connection. We also have the chance to attract kids and families from throughout the state and the country. And when we do, this regional sports facility will become a central piece of our city and region's tourism strategy. And by the way, I see Kevin Nagel here. Maybe it could become a home for the Sac Republic training facility as well. How about that? So here we go. Tourism. We are so blessed to have Visit Sacramento and Mike Testa and the dedicated hoteliers in our community. We have partnered with you over these last 5 years to expand the community convention center and build a beautiful new community center theater. We'll always have Hamilton. Yes. And together, the city council has put millions of dollars into enhancing our reputation as a city of top quality music festivals. We're on our way, man, to, well, Austin, forget Austin, Sacramento. That's how South by Southwest started, by the way. Why not us? But Mike and Visit Sac identified one major gap in our tourism strategy. We aren't attracting major youth sports tournaments and other events, and thus not getting the hotel rooms because we don't have the facility. And as I said, other regions do. I mean, Placer County to Spokane, Manteca to San Jose, Fresno to Las Vegas. Here's what happens. Kids, Sacramento kids and families must travel to compete. And when they do, those families stay in other cities' hotels and boost other cities' tax bases. No more. No more. Belongs in Sacramento. So this is not just some idea off the top of my head, because last year, Mike and Visit Sac engaged national experts to give us a real idea of what could such a regional sports facility look like. There are so many options and so many models, and I don't have a preferred idea. That's for the community and for the tourism experts and for everybody to figure out. But, you know, you could do indoor sports, basketball, you could do track, supercross, you name it. But here's one lead idea that popped off the page for me in the report. Imagine 24 full-sized multi-use fields, 16 natural grass, 8 artificial turf, a championship field with 2,000 permanent seats, lighting for all fields, locker room, meeting spaces, and food facilities. I told you it's 102 acres out there. This facility would require 40 to 50 acres, leaving over half of the remaining 102 acres for other economic drivers or other community amenities. And what is its approximate cost? $50 million. You say, come on, 50, it's a tough time. Where are we going to get $50 million? I'm going to give you that answer in a moment. Regional, state, and national tournaments would get booked 15 to 20 times a year, about 30% of the time. You know what that would mean? 70% of the time, the facility would be the pride and possession of our city and the community. The nexus between tourism and a transformational project like this is crystal clear. Here's what they tell us. Such a project would attract 70,000 attendees per year, $28 million a year in visitor spending, 51,000 hotel nights, $3.5 million in total tax collections. What a dream. And so you're saying to yourself, well, that's a nice dream. But we all know a dream stays a dream unless you have a credible way to pay for it. And I'm here to tell you today, we have a way to pay for it. When we expanded the Community Convention Center and built the new Community Center Theater, we had the hotel tax and the hoteliers assess themselves to build the third floor ballroom. That left an extra $50 million in hotel taxes to improve and modernize the old Sacramento waterfront. Man, was I excited about that, and I still am. But then COVID hit, and the money dried up as the hotel occupancy obviously went down. But we're not fully back, but we're almost back. Hotel occupancy has largely recovered. And so we took it to very conservative financial experts. Thank you. Always, John Colville, always looking out for the city's bottom line, rightfully so, conservative. And guess what John and CBRE told us? They told us that beginning July 1, 2024, a mere 24 months from now, absent another pandemic or disaster, God forbid, we will be able to afford another $90 to $100 million for projects that boost tourism and hotel nights in our city. 90 to 100 million. Without Mike Testa raising the hotel tax another penny. And he's clapping big time there. Now, hotel taxes, they can't be used for housing, for public safety, or for general services. But a big regional sports complex that serves the community and also is a magnet for tourism, that also serves as a large public assembly space, fits the purpose of the hotel tax perfectly. And we wouldn't be alone. Cities throughout the country have used their hotel tax to build these facilities, and we should do the same here in Sacramento. So here's the opportunity. If the city, Visit Sac and the community, get started now with design, with planning, and with all the other necessary steps to build an iconic regional sports facility in South Sacramento, we could break ground in 2024 and realize this dream before half the decade is out, instead of merely planning for years and hoping for some fiscal breakthrough later in the decade. You know what I believe. Let's go. Dream it, design it, build it. Look what we did with the Golden One Center, the Kings and Mark and everybody. We can do it in South Sacramento, and we can do it without raising a tax. And I will say, as a footnote, that if the sports facility requires $50 million and we have the capacity then to raise 90 to 100, as I said earlier, maybe, just maybe, we'll have enough capacity to build both the sports complex and modernize the old Sacramento waterfront. Wouldn't that be something? But first and last, our young people. I want every Sacramento kid, now and in the generations to come, to look back after 50 years, like I do, and have those same great memories of games, of friends, and experiences, lifelong memories. And so we're going to do it. Councilmember Vang and I will bring a resolution to the City Council this summer. And with the blessing of our colleagues and the help of the entire city team and the community, we will get started on delivering maybe our biggest prize yet in our drive, our city drive, to leave no part of Sacramento behind. Thank you very much, everybody.